course. Welcome to Culture Night.
Where each week we drink fancy wine and watch movies that are in some way culturally significant. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sarah, and we are back for Season 3, Episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's flying by.
Yeah, this season's going by quick. I know.
Yikes. But I'm excited to be back. I'm all day today. I've been like buzzing with the excitement of tonight's movie. So
yeah,
can't wait.
No, not to spoil it or anything like that, but I'm pretty excited about this one too. Been looking forward to it.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. So again, thank you to anybody that is tuning back in and has been a loyal follower, and welcome to anybody that's new. We are excited to have you here, and I hope you are also drinking some fancy wine, or it doesn't have to be fancy, or you don't even have to be drinking anything, but we're just glad you're here.
Just glad you're following us along on this silly journey we're on.
Silly, that's the word for it.
So what are we drinking tonight?
Tonight, our fancy wine is from Tobin James, and it is the 2017 Silver Reserve Merlot.
A good Merlot. Let's give it a smell. Can I get some like earthiness there? Like almost like a little bit of tobacco on the nose?
Yeah, I don't know what I got, but whatever I smelled was not what I was anticipating when I...
Yeah, it doesn't smell too alcohol-y on the nose.
I'm almost getting like some campfire smell.
Yeah.
But it's not a super strong smell.
It smells like a really good fall wine.
I mean,
we're getting close. There's a little bit of chill in the air.
Right. This morning, I was actually cold on my run, despite the fact that it's August. So fall is coming.
Yeah, pretty thick. Tiny bit tart.
Yeah. But still some like fruity.
Yeah. My first thought was that I got a lot of fruit there. Yeah, almost like blackberry.
That's what I was going to say, something. Yeah. Or, blackberry. Because it's not the sourness of cherry. It's very nice. This is very nice. So far, I'm feeling like I've liked this better than the last 2 weeks.
I don't know if I would say that, but we'll see how the rest of the
wine goes. You were really high on the one a couple weeks ago, so we'll see how it shakes out. And now... it is time for Behind the Screens, where each week we go behind the big screens of Hollywood and we look into some aspect of film production or storytelling. Take it away.
So this week we are exploring the different types of musical theater.
Ooh, good one.
As we've already kind of noticed ourselves from just the first 3 weeks, there are very different types of musicals. Just whether or not like the amount of singing, how much storytelling is going on, whether it seems to be super cohesive. So it's like there's got to be some sort of like, label for the different types. And so in my quick research, there was anywhere between like 3 to 8, maybe even more different types of musical theater, depending on who you ask. So the one I'm going with is from thedramateacher.com.
Oh, that feels legit.
By Justin Cash. And we will see if this is, our comprehensive list, or if there's maybe some different types maybe that aren't covered in this we might think of as we go along. We'll start with the first one, the book musical, also known as the script musical or the libretto. Consists of spoken dialogue and has song lyrics as well. Has a heavy reliance on the script, and they say that there are 5 aspects that delineate this genre of musicals. There's an emphasis on character, and an emphasis on the story. The music, lyrics, and dance are motivated by the characters, situations, and the plot. These musicals are dialogue heavy, and they speak in a realistic manner. And the music is influenced by American idioms. The lyrics, which are poetic, are connected to American English, and the book uses dialogue that is written realistically. So for that one, I feel like it's a lot like Oklahoma.
Yes.
Where there was a lot of dialogue, and they were also trying to develop character there as well.
I feel like I need to hear them all to really to understand what the difference is. Because I'm like, yes, that's every musical ever. But I feel like...
Not quite.
Well, I know. I feel like I need to hear what the other differences are
so
to
we'll go through all 6 then before we start kind of putting these into boxes. So the next step is the jukebox musical, because they have a bunch of songs by a single recording artist. So it's kind of just like a playlist or an album by one artist, and you kind of play through it, and they kind of have a loose plot connecting them. The plots are often thin and or flaky, and the characters don't really have much depth. A rock musical is also like a jukebox musical, just that it has a whole lot of the same type of like rock songs that connect the music. I think some of the examples they give are Jesus Christ Superstar. I think one of the lists said Rent was also an example of that. Not sure how I've not seen that, so I can't confirm or deny.
I haven't seen it all the way through.
A dance musical is that it has obviously a lot of dancing or an emphasis on the dance numbers. In fact, one of the, I guess, earlier versions of the movie we are watching tonight is considered one of them. Also, West Side Story, Moulin Rouge, heavy emphasis on the dance for the dance musicals. The concept musical, which has a deeper meaning, theme, message, or metaphor, but a lack of a linear plot line. But they have like just one overarching theme between them, and I don't really know. They said the best example is the movie Company, which I have not seen. Also says like Cats and Hair can also be examples. Okay. I guess Cats, I've not seen either of those as well.
I have not either, but from what I know of them, I think I get it.
A sung through musical, which is something similar to Hamilton, where the entire movie, everything is spoken. There is everything is sung. There's absolutely no spoken
words. Isn't Les Mis also like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, includes Les Mis as well in that list. And then one more that's not included in this list that I saw another one is the Disney style musical, which
like an animated Disney musical,
which I feel like is kind of like a different genre in itself in different ways. But also like, especially the earlier ones, it seems like they were more based on like fairy tales, and they're trying to tell a fairy tale through music to keep people entertained. So I can see that kind of being considered a separate genre.
Disney is definitely its own little box, but okay.
So going with like Singing in the Rain, I think kind of goes with the Jukebox musical.
That's what I was going to say.
Where it was the same artist, I can't remember who.
The main guy, Gene Kelly?
There's one musical artist that had all the songs. And they
yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
It's escaping me now.
But I think that kind of fits in that pretty squarely in that one. Next, we watched Oklahoma. And I think we said that one was the book musical. Last week we watched Grease, which I feel like is a cross between the dance and rock.
Yeah, I feel like the storyline is a B plot to the singing and the dancing.
Yeah,
in those.
Yeah, I think it was probably closer to a dance musical than a like rock or anything like that. It kind of was more like rock style of that time, I guess, some of the songs, but like Grease Lightning and things like that were a bit more fast paced. But I think it fits more in the dance musical.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we will use this list as we go forward through the rest of the season to kind of figure out which type of musical this was. Like, I'll think of a cool, catchy segment name for it if I can.
Yeah, that's good. I was trying to find something like this, like the How Noir You Are, for musicals, and it just wasn't coming to mind. So I like this.
Cool.
We will keep checking back in. Speaking of How Noir You Are, quick podcast business. Do we need to talk about how we watched It's Always Sunny this week?
Oh, yeah. So we've been watching through It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia from the very beginning. We started watching it right after we had watched Welcome to Wrexham.
So beginning of this year. Yeah,
beginning of this year, just because we wanted to find out more about Rob McElhenney and see like what his kind of, show was actually like. We are almost caught up.
Yeah, I believe this episode is in season 14.
And they've kind of, I guess, changed the show a lot over the time. I think they kind of like random ideas. They're just kind of having a lot of fun being really creative with it. And this latest episode,
the janitor that always mops twice, is that what it is?
The janitor, I think just the janitor
always mops twice.
Was a very noir episode. I think they had a lot of fun like creating it and acting out like as noir characters. They kind of broke character a couple times through, which is kind of funny. But afterwards, we graded it, and it was
a 7 out of 10 on the How Noir You Are scale.
It really only lost points because of no riding the rails.
It was not made in 1940, and
I think we lost 2 half points for 2 other things. But otherwise, it was very well done.
We were both so impressed because this is usually our like end of the night show that we watch and like kind of half pay attention. But as soon as it started, we both were like, "Oh my gosh!"
Immediately put our phones down.
Yeah, it was very well done. So props to Always Sunny for that. That was really cool. And meant a lot because we just finished this season to be watching it now.
Very, very familiar for us.
Yeah, so that was just a fun little bit of podcast business from us to insert here. So now I think it's time to jump into Slept on It for Grease. Has your rating changed after sleeping on it? Last week you rated Grease a 5.4 and I rated it a 6.5.
I don't think so. I think 5.4 is about how much I enjoyed it. Whether or not I would finish it if it was on, obviously I never really have because I've only ever seen bits and pieces of it. I'm not going to go back and start it, from the beginning and watch it over and over again. It's really just mainly the quotability parts of it, from like the songs, that I know. So I can't really justify giving it, I think, much more than a 5.4.
Mm-hmm. So I am going to drop mine back from the 6.5. I was going to drop it to a 5.8 after thinking about it, but really thinking about the cultural significance of it, I do feel like it's something that is referenced a lot, even still. And I don't know, I think it really started something. And although we weren't around at the time, I feel like its pop culture is what is keeping it at a 6 for me. Again, it is not my favorite musical. I have seen it a bunch of times, but I think my mom really loves it. And then like my friends would get into it at different times. So I'd see it with them, or it would be on TV at something and we would watch the end of it. So it's not my absolute favorite, but I do feel like it's pretty iconic for what it is, that I don't want to go below a 6, but
yeah, I think tying in like the quotability for me, it's more just like that. It's just so entrenched in so many things. You see so many slight references to it. And everyone kind of knows at least some of the songs, or at least has seen bits and pieces of it. So yeah, but I still don't think I would rate it any higher than that. I just had another sip of the wine and I got jelly donut. Like not quite as like candy sweet as that, but it just...
I can see it. I was going to say jammy, but I feel like I can't use that word anymore because we overuse it. But I did get that. I mean, I don't really eat jelly, but I make almond butter and jelly sandwiches almost every day that I know the smell pretty well. And that Welch's grape jelly, or that like jelly filling, I can see that with the sweetness of the donut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
It doesn't taste quite as sweet, but I kind of get that flavor from it at least.
All right, so you ready for some fun deep dives behind the scenes facts?
Some fun facts.
Yeah, they're really just fun facts. There are a lot of facts out there, but I tried to narrow it down. I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast or while we were watching the show last week or the movie last week, but the 3 other T-Birds that I don't know their names off the top of my head that are not Danny and Kinnicky, they were actually modeled after the Three Stooges and directed to use a lot of their like mannerisms and behavior.
I feel like they did exactly like a very stereotypical Three Stooges.
Because we pointed it out while we were watching, but it was in fact like, oh, you should be like this, and not just they happened to be similar to that. So there was some connection there. It supposedly took a week for them to get the hand jive scene in the gym because of how coordinated all of the people that needed to be doing it at the same time. And the more I thought about it, I was like, that's impressive that they committed to it for that long, but I can't imagine trying to coordinate that many people to do that at the same time.
Especially thinking like they had to have people watching to know whether everyone was in sync, but also then you have to go back and rewatch the film to know. And like, it's not as instant as being like, quickly rewind this and see like if someone missed it, or we'll fix that in post and like edit it so they were quite in sync or something. You had to literally go back, oh no, we went back, watched the film, like projected on this thing, and now we have to go back because these 4 people weren't quite in sync. It's been crazy.
Yeah, as dedication to a dance number, that's for sure. So Olivia Newton-John's all black outfit. Apparently she was the one that had the pants and was like, I want to wear these in this. So she's the one that brought them about. But they were so tight that she had to be sewn into them and then rip them off every day to get them to fit correctly. So I don't know that she wore that outfit a ton because apparently they nailed down that last number in one day. Like that was pretty quick, but I guess all the other scenes on that Ferris wheel, what's that called?
Funhouse thing?
Yeah. Like carnival. That's what I'm looking for. She was wearing it through all of those scenes, but yeah, she had apparently to be sewn into those every day.
But it was her idea. Like, why can't you go find a different pair?
Right.
One's slightly larger.
I don't know. But I mean, she looked great. Good on you.
Well, I guess here's the cultural significance is that this inspired the scene from Friends with Ross much later with his leather pants.
Oh, and his pace pants.
Some facts are just, you just want to choose to believe them.
I believe it 100%. In the scene where Rizzo has the hickeys on her neck, I forget at what point it is in there, but Jeff Conway, who played Kinnicky, actually gave those hickeys to her. He was so committed to the part that he's like, oh, you don't need makeup. I'll just give you hickeys. So he gave her all these hickeys, and then she had to find makeup for the other scenes where she didn't have the hickeys.
That's all fun and games until you have to live up to your scenes.
But they were dedicated to the art of this movie, that's for sure. And there was also, apparently they had signed like a deal for Coca-Cola to advertise in the movie, and they shot all of the scenes in the soda shop with big Coca-Cola advertisements behind them. And then that deal apparently fell through after they shot all of that, or there was like a secret deal with Pepsi, or there was something there. And so if you actually watch it back, all of the things are blurred out. They had to go through and like blur everything out because they didn't want to reshoot. It would be more expensive to reshoot everything. But I've watched this movie several times, and I've not once ever noticed that things were blurred out in the background. So
didn't that happen something similar to that with like the beginning of It's Always Sunny?
Yes.
Like they had a beer sponsor who pulled out.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I know.
Except like they had that, and they had all the beers like turned around or something when they reshot it or something like that.
Yeah. It's so interesting to look for those fun little like behind the scenes.
That's why we don't have a
things.
sponsor.
Right? Just the blank wall behind us. We don't have to blur anything out. And then my last note is that John Travolta seemed like he was quite the diva on this for it being so early on in his career. Apparently, there was the drive-in movie scene. He was really mad that the end of that song didn't end on a close-up on him. And he was like really upset that they didn't end on a close-up. It was zoomed out of him on swing with the 50s trailers running behind him. And he also said he would only take the part if he was the one that got to sing Grease Lightning, because that was supposed to be Kanicki's song. And he like insisted that he needed to be the one to perform it for the movie.
He just wanted to be the ringleader. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
He also tried to heal the director with Scientology touch assist. So I don't know. There's a lot to unpack
Sounds
in
legit.
that. Take that as you will. But yeah, he seems like he's a little bit of a diva.
I mean, I don't think anyone ever has looked at him and been like, he seems nice and stable.
You're not wrong.
No offense, Johnny, but.
So those are my fun behind the scenes facts. There's a lot more out there. Lots of fun, interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure there's just lots more to unpack there too. I think we did hear that like the movie was based on, I guess, the theater performance or something.
Yes.
But it's very loosely based on that, because we were kind of confused about how they like made this into a theater production. Apparently it's like because this was nothing like what the actual theater production's actually like.
The original theater production was a lot more based on Rizzo's life. I didn't deep dive too much into this. This is just personal stories from other people that we've talked to. And I have heard that the Broadway's versions are slightly different.
Yeah. So
Maybe one day we'll see it in person and we'll know.
maybe.
Probably not. Okay. So now anything else you have for Grease?
Don't think so.
You ready to move on to tonight?
Next chapter.
Yes. So what are we watching tonight?
We are watching Chicago from 2002.
I am so excited.
I'm excited to see what the top movies and songs were from that year.
Oh, I was looking it up and I was like 2002 and I wanted to just put all the movies and all the songs in there because there were so many good ones.
So let's hop into our time machine. And welcome back to 2002. The top 3 movies released that year were Spider-Man, grossing $403 million, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, grossing $310 million, and Lord of the Rings, this was probably the Two Towers, I think, $262 million. It's a pretty stacked year for movies. Wow.
I believe Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was number 4 on that list. Like, I mean, I was scrolling through and it was just like, wow. Such great movies.
Yeah, pretty hard to compete with that. The top 3 songs, How You Remind Me by Nickelback. Ooh, back when Nickelback was at the top.
Right?
Foolish by Ashanti and Hot and Her by Nelly. Hell yeah.
Like, I'm shocked that's not number 1 because I feel like that is still such a banger, but man.
The song makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Really brings me back.
I mean, especially because knowing it came out in 2002 when we were like 11 and how scandalous that what must have been for our parents to hear us 11-year-olds singing, but now it's still like makes me laugh so much. I love it so much.
And like some of the lyrics that I didn't really understand at the time that I like got later.
Classic.
Love that song. I skipped over. The movie is rated PG-13.
I feel like that fits. I have seen it before.
Yes. Have you seen it before? Yes, I have. I remember nothing about it. So I watched this movie.
Tell us your story.
But I always associate this movie with this memory of we had rented it, and earlier that day I had gotten my braces tightened, and my teeth were just absolutely killing me. And like when you get your braces tightened, like it's not like you can like just take the braces off. You're just in absolute pain. So I'd taken some Advil, like wasn't really helping, and we were having dessert. So I had like some sherbet. I remember it being like kind of a bluish, whatever color flavor sherbet. And I remember just taking that spoonfuls over and over again and just shoving them into like where my braces were to try to like numb my teeth. And it basically resulted in me just basically drooling out a bunch of sherbet all over the place. So I just remember like my face and hands being so sticky watching this, my teeth hurting so bad that I remember pretty much nothing from this movie.
Oh man, I'm so glad that you have a platform to tell that story on.
So every time I hear that the name like of the movie, I think of just my hands being like all sticky and blue.
And tell us, why did you pick this shirt?
To really kind of reminisce on this blue sherbet memory.
For those of you listening on to the podcast, he is wearing a light blue shirt in honor of his blue sherbet from 2002 when he saw this movie.
So from what I remember, like, is Richard Gere in this movie?
I believe so. It's a very stacked cast of people. I can't remember everybody that's in it, but it's a lot of big names.
That's about the extent of what I remember.
So I have seen this many times. I feel like it's been probably 15 plus years since I've seen it. And this is also one of the movies that kind of inspired this whole podcast. It was one of the ones where I was like, I want to see this movie again. I'll start a list, because I think it just like it had just been added to HBO Max or something, or some service we had. And I was like, oh, I'll start a list. And so that kind of what started our list, which then tied into the whole wine night thing. And this, I feel like, is one of the ones for me that I've been wanting to watch for a while. Because again, this is one I want to watch as an adult, because it has been a really long time since I've seen it. So I'm very interested to see how I feel about it, because it's been a very long time since I've seen it. But I believe Catherine Zeta-Jones, Queen Latifah, Renee Zellweger, John C. Reilly.
I think this was kind of like an era where a lot of musicals were coming out and everyone wanted to be involved with them.
Yeah, but the soundtrack to this movie, I have listened to a good jillion times. I made up dances to these songs. I'm not a dancer, but like,
we're gonna have to reenact them for the
I
pod
could
now.
not. I mean, they were different every time I did them, but like, I loved the soundtrack so much. So I've all day today been kind of like humming and singing along. And this week, brace yourself, we're gonna be just on repeat.
Wait.
So
We're a very musical household.
I love talking to you, but I'm so excited to watch this movie. I think it's time to jump in. Are you ready?
Yep, Chicago. Let's go.
Chicago.
Cheers.
Cheers. Chicago.
The Windy City.
Oh, God. All right. Before we jump into the wine scale, I have a little scooge of podcast business for us.
Before the wine scale,
Yeah.
even. Okay.
Yeah, a little quick surprise. We hit 200 followers on Instagram whilst watching Chicago.
We like doubled it in a week.
Right?
We're going viral. You heard it here first.
Look out.
Welcome to the ground floor.
Yes.
We're going
Thank
up.
you to anybody who has subscribed. We are at 200. We are thankful for you guys that follow along. And we hope you enjoy what we're putting out there.
We appreciate it. You guys make this all possible.
Yes. So thanks. So just fun fact, I didn't want to tell you. I was really excited. It was really hard to keep it a secret. It was actually like 2 minutes after we finished the first part of the podcast. And I was like,
Man, crushed it.
yep. So anyways, now we can jump into the wine scale.
Into the wine scale. So the wine scale is a 0 to 10 scale. It's extremely subjective. It's also heavily weighted because we drink, like all the wines we're going to drink on the show are going to be good wines. So a low score does not necessarily mean that it is a bad wine or that you shouldn't buy it or you wouldn't enjoy it. It's all just kind of subjective. And yeah. So that being said, I will go first. I rate this wine a 6.0.
Oh, I was willing you to say the same number in my head. Could you see it?
No, I never know what those eyes are saying. It could mean anything when you're staring at me like.
Right. You're right. Sorry.
Why would you give it a 6? Or I honestly have no idher. What's your score?
My score is a 6.1. So we're
I
very
was so close to 6.1. Oh my
right,
god!
You didn't get. I was willing it into your.
Honestly, it was like the little meter was like fluctuating between there, and it went back to 6.0. I'd gone up all the way to a 6.2 during it. I think a 6.0 is where I am. So you're obviously a 6.1.
I'm a 6.1.
Yeah.
I can't drink this yet.
It got better the more that I drank it. Like as we were filming the pre-roll stuff, every time I took a sip of it, I don't know if you can see it in my eyes of people that are watching it. Like I was just like, wow, I'm getting more out of this wine every sip that I take. Now, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as like the wines from like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that one you gave like an 8 something.
Yeah, I just this one earns most improved for this season at least.
Huh. I agree. I think it was. I mean, from the start, it was more enjoyable for me. It was a little more complex. Overall, I just enjoyed it. Like you said, there is no actual scale. It's just kind of a gut feeling when you finish it, and it was a 6.1 for me.
That being said, as like, little thought as we put into the number, a lot of times we've been very consistent. Sometimes we've had the same like varietal by the same winery with different years, with no like recollection of the previous season or previous episodes being like, oh yeah, like was it one we were like within like 0.1.
One of us gave the exact same score, and the other one was off by like 0.1 or 0.2.
Yeah, so there's something there. I just don't know what it is.
I think it's just you just know when you know, and if we tried to quantify it in any way, we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, it's definitely not repeatable by any means. But
and like you said, like all the wines are so good. Like they are not, oh, this is so terrible, I would never suggest this to anybody. They're all delicious. Some just stand out more than others.
They're all delicious, including our after show Black Box wine. Not a sponsor unless
Shameless
they want to be. I will say a lot of times it's very jarring. And I don't know if it's just based on like the varietal that we're drinking or the blend that we're drinking, then going to the Black Box Cabernet Sauvignon afterwards. Sometimes it's very jarring. This week it's not as jarring. This still tastes very delightful.
Okay, well now I have to take a sip because I haven't had any yet. I was trying to give my thoughts first.
Yeah, it can cloud your judgment if you've had some Black Box before you give your judgment. But it
isn't as jarring, but it is a lot sweeter. That's my big takeaway.
I get a more like wood flavor in a decent way,
like wood chips.
Just like a woody flavor.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
gnawed on some wood. Not like a cheap number 2 pencil or something like that, but like a, just some good, like, this wood, got some wood to it. So now moving on.
Moving on from there. Should we talk about the movie?
Yes. The movie,
do you want me to go first?
Sure.
I am going to give it a 7.3.
7.3. I think I'm going a 5.5.
You don't have to give your reasoning now. We can discuss it as we move through questions and notes, but
yeah, just
unless you feel like you have to talk about it.
Yeah, it's just more along the lines of like, and I think it's probably true with a lot of musicals of how often I'm going to go back and re-watch it. However, I also kind of want to think differently, and I might change my score even just now, thinking, how much am I going to be humming and singing the songs and listening to the soundtrack? Because I might not necessarily want to sit down and rewatch an entire musical all the time, like I would with a lot of movies. I know some people absolutely love that and would do that 24/7, but I think I'd be much more likely to listen to some of the songs from this than I would be to sit down and watch it. So with that being said, I'm going to bump this up to a 6.2.
Oh, I do like that. I think that is an excellent criteria for musicals. Like, I'm not going to sit around and listen to Oklahoma all the time. This has been a burned CD in my CD case since 2002. Like, this soundtrack I love.
I get that. I mean, and we'll get to it in a minute of like more along the lines of the songs and everything. But I almost wonder if I should combine in my criteria that's very unofficial in my brain.
I love this.
Combine like rewatchability. I've kind of kept them at 2 things of like how likely would I be to watch the whole thing versus how likely would I be if it was on, say, like I'm flipping the channels, it's on halfway through to pick it up and watch it through to the end. Combine those into just like one rewatchability kind of portion and another one like the soundtrack. Because I feel like that is a good thing to judge a movie by, especially with the season like musicals, but even other movies where they have like a really, really great soundtrack that I might actually just...
What was it? Top Gun?
Top Gun obviously is a great soundtrack, but even some of the movies like...
Super Mario Brothers.
Well, yeah.
If you haven't seen
the
it.
Classic rock hits at least from that, but like I think back to movies like even like The Dark Knight and Pirates of the Caribbean where I had just like a really good like, orchestrated score.
You did love Pirates of the Caribbean. Do you remember that story?
Yeah. So, I think my 6.2, I think I'll go ahead and automatically or quickly readjust that
before
one.
you sleep on it. Go ahead and bump it up. Yeah. I don't know. I appreciated a lot of the art of this movie. The soundtrack is, it's just rooted in my soul, in nostalgia factor. And it's just so catchy. And I think because it is about a time period and like the music fits that time period, like it's not like, oh, I'm over that soundtrack. Like it has like a place. I don't know if that makes sense. And just watching them perform the songs after having just hearing the songs forever, like their performances are so great.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Loved
a lot
it.
of over the top, like in a good way, like dance numbers to go along with them and just the visuals.
So well
Very
done.
cool.
So well done. 7.3 for me, maybe higher, but 7.3 solid.
So with that being said, let's move into the movie description. I will go first with my description.
I'll take that.
If you do that remote. So a woman trying to make it in show business tries to sleep her way into a role. Turns out that she's been led on by a guy with no connections, kills him, is arrested, and this whole movie follows her, trial and trying to get off and everything, with a lot of musical numbers interlaced in there, showing her, I guess, like what she's thinking and how she's visualizing all these things, and leads to some courtroom drama in the end.
Very good. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, according to the TV, murder.
Murder. Are you a murderer or a murderess? I've never heard of a murderess.
Right? Murderesses Velma Kelly and Roxy Hart find themselves on death row together and fight for the fame that will keep them from the gallows in 1920s Chicago.
The Windy City.
Very succinct.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of liked yours better.
Yeah.
But I also, I have read this for like 25 episodes now.
There's just a good, not giving out away too much.
You find out all of that in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's enough to hook me to keep watching.
Was the movie what you expected, though?
Yes.
You've seen it before.
Yes.
No. I expected there to be a lot of showbiz ties in there and dance numbers and, crazy of the times outfits and all that sort of stuff, all that jazz, if you will. I did not expect the whole murder and jail drama. I had totally forgotten all of that in the past 11 years. 11? 23, 21. The past
21 years. 11.
Yeah.
21 years ago.
Yeah. I was like, that doesn't seem right. It wasn't right. The past 20 some years.
God, we're so old.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, just sit in that for a second. 2002 was 21 years ago. Anyways,
both those feel wrong. Both 11 and 21. Yeah. No, it was not what I expected.
Mm-hmm. It was 100% what I expected. I have notes.
The dance visual part, yes. The plot line, no. How well did it age, though?
I think it aged well.
Yeah, I thought that it aged very well, given, obviously, as we talked about in the past, it's a time period piece. It takes place in a time in the past. Two things I didn't think aged well. One was the CGI when they were trying to show Chicago. You kind of tell nowadays where it's okay, that clearly is CGI. Does not look as realistic. And
I would love to know how 2002 me viewed that of oh man, they're in 1920 Chicago. Was it that out of touch that it was it looked good, whereas now I'm ooh.
Which I'm obviously kind of surprised that there aren't sets in Hollywood of various big cities. Take 10 of them in their 3 or 4 biggest eras and just recreate those sets. And I feel you don't need a CGI to do a lot of these various scenes that so many movies are going to have. If there's an iconic scene of New York, okay, you got the Brooklyn Bridge. If it's changed throughout 2 or 3 different eras, have that kind of at scale stage somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, California, where they're filming these things, so they can go to it without doing all the CGI. I think could be.
And even just thinking of the one scene they had there where it was a city street with the train tracks. I feel you easily could have built that for not a lot of money. And it looked way better. Yeah, they put all the money obviously into the wardrobe and that. But the other thing I thought didn't age very well was a lot of the low light scenes were extremely grainy. Now we're watching 1080p version. I don't think it's been likely remastered 2002. Not really sure what quality. I think DVDs were, still around then. Might have been more 720p then. Anyways, I don't think it seemed fairly grainy, especially in the low light scenes, and some of them just were very clearly looked very, very gritty and grainy. But otherwise, I thought the movie aged fairly well for plot and acting and the rest of it. Yeah. And again, I think a lot of that is because it's about a time period and you can't argue too much with that because it is set at a different time where things are different.
I did think it funny, like the jury being all men. It's like, okay, jury, your peers, you're a woman on trial for murder, and it's all men there. But that's more of a sign of the times than a sign of this movie itself.
Yeah. Did they say the title of the movie?
I think they said Chicago a couple times.
That's Chicago. That was the cheesiest of them all.
That one, you could tell was one of those like, this is going to be in the trailer. We're going to use this for marketing. We're going to put this line in here so we can say that's Chicago. And
that was almost like the I'm home alone. Like one of those, like I am putting the title of the movie as a line so that it can be in the trailer. That's kind
like
of scenes.
The honestly, it's kind of like the
why the questions.
Why I have that question in there of did they say title in the movie? Because I just love when it's so forced and so like it makes me so happy.
I know it does. And as soon as he said it, I was like, here we go.
The title fit the movie.
Yeah.
Sure. I think you could probably gonna come with something like just show business.
I even feel like All That Jazz.
All That Jazz also. All That Jazz, yeah, you win. You win this week.
Oh,
All That Jazz.
Oh my gosh, did I finally get one?
Yeah.
It only took 6 months of doing this.
Yeah, I think All That Jazz would have been perfect.
Because also to confirm, this is episode 26. So this is week 26.
This is for 6 months.
Yeah, 6 straight months of doing this
Wednesday.
podcast. Just saying, that's impressive.
Were there any actors that went on to do bigger things?
Well, let's just look at who's up there right now. Renee Zellweger, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Richard Gere, Queen Latifah, John C. Reilly, Lucy Liu, Taye Diggs. Shall I continue?
Just a couple.
I don't think it was a lot of their first roles, but...
Well, you missed McNulty.
Oh, yes.
Forget the actor's name. Like
Dominic West?
Yeah, I knew it was Dominic. I can remember his last name. Went on to be a huge role, obviously the main role in
When did The Wire start?
It ended in 2008 and was on for like 5 seasons, so it must have been just after this.
Dominic West.
And
yes, 2002, same year.
Same year that started. This was his breakout. And then also the lady from The Grinch. She was like the court reporter, but she was also one of the
yes
in the Jim Carrey version of The Grinch.
Christine Baranski.
Yes, her. She also was in this, but I believe that The Grinch came out 2 years prior to this. So I would say went on to do bigger things. But
I think, and she was in a lot of things before that too. Sybil.
I'm sure she was known for more than what.
And she's been in stuff since then.
We're probably like
The Good
aging
Wife,
ourselves
I
by
believe.
showing this. But I just love when I see like minor characters from things where I'm like, you know, you see them in the background or they're not a main thing. You're like, oh, you know them from this very random role from something else unrelated to it. Just love that too.
As Martha May Whovier from The Grinch. Oh, she's the best.
It seemed like she was playing the same character here, just as like.
I think that's just her typecast.
She is, yeah, true. What impact do you think the movie had on pop culture?
I think like a little bit, but not. It's not as much as some of the other ones. I do think, like you were saying, it was kind of in that era where musicals were starting to be really popular. And so a lot of the big names wanted to be in a musical. So you get all of these people that want to be a part of it. And maybe it helped kind of resurge that excitement about musicals because it was really well done.
Yeah. So this is a remake of a theater show. So like the theater show was created in the 1920s, I think. I think it said like 1926. There was an original movie of it in 1975.
I knew there was a original movie from the 60s or 70s. Yeah. I didn't look too much into the history.
So for like the cultural significance, I think it was more like a time capsule of like Chicago, especially. I don't know how faithful this was to the original like Broadway show or anything. But I do agree. We kind of discussed this before, probably outside of the show, that I think this era was a big like musical time period, this like 4 or 5 years, and especially with ensemble cast, it just became like a big thing early 2000s. Like we're gonna have a whole lot of musicals, we're gonna pump them out, and we're just gonna get a whole lot of people, big names in there to promote them.
Yeah, I mean, I think
this was just one of them.
I feel like the rest of our episodes, except for maybe one, is from the next like 5 years from 2002, from what we have talked about, unless other people have suggestions, which you can feel free to comment below. But I think from like 2002 to 2007. It was like musical, big names, big people.
And I think also it's because we were then in high school, like towards the end of that I feel like the theater program at my high school was doing a lot of these musicals as well. That it's like, it just felt like it was so for like a decade, just ingrained all these musicals, and then my high school doing the same ones.
I mean, even like with Oklahoma, like I know that from middle school chorus, like we sang all these songs and it was just then, and we sang a bunch of other songs that then were also turned into musicals around the same time. And it was just this like era of a resurgence of musicals, which I did not hate.
I'll also say though that, and I have it in a note later, that for the cultural significance part is I feel like so much of this was so like stereotypical America now, where it's like you have this, super celebrity that like you're latched onto for all the wrong reasons. And then as soon as like they're not in the spotlight anymore, they're like just completely forgotten. And like just the way that, especially before she revealed that she had a fake baby, how she was already like old news so quickly, and just how quickly like the news cycle moves on. But before that, everyone just loves the drama and is so obsessed with this person because they like had some crazy, like she killed this guy, and everyone's so obsessed and wants to know everything about them. And the next thing comes along and you're like, oh yeah, I don't care anymore. Yep. It just felt like such a, from the 1920s until at least modern day, a whole 100 years, that's just how America is.
Yeah, definitely.
We care until we don't.
You said it. That's it.
And do you feel cultured after watching it?
I'll let you go first.
I don't know so much as feeling cultured as more, I just am glad that I finally have closure on my whole Sherbert story from before. I do enjoy that I like all that jazz, some of these other songs. Like I've heard them before. I didn't even know that it was from this until I heard the first opening notes to it in the beginning. But now knowing the whole movie, I do feel cultured in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it several times before. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the CD of this that I burned in like 2000 something is still in my CD case that I have upstairs. Like there's a lot of this to me that like I just have always known for a long time. But I think also seeing some of these actors and actresses that I don't know, I know some of their work, but seeing some of their, like something totally different like this, I feel cultured in that aspect of seeing like John C. Reilly. Queen Latifah does a lot of movies like this, but like Richard Gere and like Renee Zellweger and Catherine Zeta-Jones, I appreciate re-watching this and learning a little bit more about their histories from this.
Yeah, John C. Reilly didn't sing too much. He kind of like talked through some songs, but I feel like he's got like an incredible amount of range. Especially like if you knew him just from Talladega Nights and Step Brothers, he's got a lot of more range. He's in a lot of things.
I have some notes.
Okay.
I have some thoughts.
Well, this was the end of our questions, so you can move right into your notes.
Okay. I'm going to jump right off. Okay. So my first thought is I meant to say this in the before show, and I forgot, is that I felt like this was going to have a lot of film noir vibes. And I was so mad I didn't say that because I just feel like, there's a little bit of black and white. Babes. There is the Dangerous Babes. There is the Murder, Crime, and Guns. There, like the
I
city.
saw Air Train, but I don't know if it's riding the rails.
Right. Like I knew that this was a like crime drama musical movie. And so I was like, it's going to be a little bit like what we've been seeing. So I think because we've been watching so many of those movies, I appreciate a lot more from it, having the context that we have had from the last couple of weeks. So I'm mad I didn't say that in the before show, but
I can see it.
Film noir vibes. Not totally. It would probably be lower than that episode of Always Sunny, but
higher than Wonder Man.
Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy. It'll always be Wonder Boy to me. Wonder Man.
All right. Anyways, my next note is Catherine Zeta-Jones. See her pictures up there. See her character, Velma Kelly. My first thought when I saw her was like, man, she looks like the mom from the Santa Claus in the 1993 version. Or the original Santa Claus. The haircut and the bangs.
Oh, I 1,000%.
I could not. I mean, it was in the first like 2 minutes of the movie, and I could not unsee it the rest of the movie. And I mean, and she's like this like sultry murderess, and all I could think was like, oh, all she wanted was the mystery date game from the Santa Claus.
See, that's all you could see. All I could hear was it's from an episode of Workaholics. In the beginning, like one of the earlier seasons, they talk about, or they're doing a bunch of mushrooms. They're really high, and for some reason they come on like the topic of Catherine Zeta-Jones, and they sing Catherine Zeta-Jones. She dips beneath lasers. Oh, so I heard that on repeat the entire. They're singing all these songs all over the top, and this is all I hear the entire movie.
That's unfortunate. I'm so glad I had the Santa Claus visually.
It's a more heartwarming version for you. Mine was a little bit stupider, but
yeah, I just couldn't unsee it. The haircut, they are the same. Just putting that out there. And then when Roxy gets to jail and she's in her uniform, I just couldn't imagine going to jail and having to wear a dress. Like their uniforms, their like prison uniforms were dresses. And that's just like such a wild, different sign of the times.
I didn't even notice that. I just noticed that Catherine Zeta-Jones, Velma Kelly, was wearing like her show business outfits. But
They have a lot
like
of the
bought her
sexy lace underneath.
Yeah, I think she like bought her way up to being able to wear that, but I didn't even look at what they were wearing.
They were all wearing dresses, and I was just like, man, that's a different time
Not
than it
the
is
orange
now.
jumpsuit.
Yeah, definitely not. Okay, Cell Block Tango. I have so many things to say. That has always been my favorite song from this movie. There are a lot of great ones. That's always been my favorite. But I also love it because even back in the day when I first saw this for the first time, I just loved the use of visuals and colors to tell the story, and how the Russian woman is the one that's innocent. I believe she's Russian. And because she has the white.
Because it's Hungarian, I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Eastern European.
Yes. The foreign woman you can't understand her story and you can't follow along, but she pulls out the white handkerchief, but everyone else.
She sings in a different language, not a thick accent.
Yes. And then everybody else is pulling out these red handkerchiefs, and the lighting is the red lighting on everybody else. And she has but she's the one that ends up getting hung. And just like, I remember processing that as a 11-year-old at the time and being like, oh my God, that is so deep. And it like hurt me to my core of how like unfair that was for her, but just also like how well done it is from a visual standpoint of telling the story when you're like watching these like sultry women dancing and just like telling a story, and you're not thinking twice until you really look and process it. I just feel like it's such a well done musical number.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's one of my favorite songs. It
was very cool. It was very hard to keep track of, like just a whole lot going on there. But
yeah. I sat down back in 2002 and printed the lyrics off of some like lyrics.com and read them all and learned them all. So I still know them, but
yeah, miss those days.
Right. There's probably sheets and sheets of lyrics tucked away somewhere at my parents' house.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to do it. Sign of the times. Also this movie, back to film noir, gave me a lot of the Sin City vibes. Just of all the women in the lingerie and their outfits and the the pack of women,
the bright red colors, especially like during the dance scene when they pulled out like the red handkerchief, like that felt very, very Sin City. I agree.
Yeah, I loved the crossover, and I'm glad that we have done things in the order that we've done so far, because I think I appreciate a lot more from this, having watched what we've watched so far. Okay, now let's just talk about the casting. So this is kind of where it goes back to the John C. Reilly thing. Well, we'll start with him. I had seen this movie many times before, and I have seen Step Brothers and Talladega Nights, but I 1000% forgot that he was in this until I was looking up the like when it was from and the rating and all that stuff, and I saw his picture pop up, and I was like, I forgot he was in this. And the range, like you said, the range of that man is, I mean, it's almost a shame. I feel like he should have kind of started with the Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, and like grown into this role, but I feel like he was so believable as this character, so good.
And I think that's like how good that he is you don't think of this big, oh, John C. Reilly was in this. You think like this innocent, man,
gullible husband
was in this, that he just played it so well.
So well done. Honestly, I feel like the whole cast. Richard Gere was the only one that was like a little weird for me. He did a really good job with it, but I was like, I'm watching Richard Gere play this character, not like the other ones. I felt like they just really were the character. He was a little bit of a stretch for me. But I mean, Renee Zellweger was very much, so her name is very hard to say. Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, that's why I just called her Renee earlier.
Smart. She just very, very innocent, but also can kind of play that like sultry, like innocent.
She still seems kind of like derpy to me, just from other like roles that I've seen. I don't know if she's actually like that or just the original roles, first impressions that I had of her is that. Richard Gere, though, he didn't seem out of place. I just want to know if he was actually the one singing for his roles, because
I did also. I wondered that too.
He seemed.
I'll find that out next week.
Really, natural at it. That I want to know, like, was it actually his voice?
And his tap dancing thing. I was like, did he just learn to tap dance? Is he a tap dancer? Like, I have a lot of questions there.
I could see him being like actually have like a big background in like Broadway. Wouldn't be shocked, but he just such a suave vibe, like. That's the original Silver Fox to me, is like, you got Steve Martin, but he's more of a goofy kind of guy. But like Richard Gere, he was hot stuff.
Are you trying to aspire to be Richard Gere?
I am now. No, I'm not shaving, but like,
Yeah, please don't shave.
Got some charisma for sure.
Definitely, he definitely does. And like I said, it wasn't terrible. It was just the other people. I felt like I believed that they were the characters more than themselves. And then the last person I really want to talk about is Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know her. I know the name Catherine Zeta-Jones, and I know who she is as an actress. I don't know a lot of her other roles, but I feel like she was excellent as Velma Kelly. For me, I thought like just like how she so aggressively attacked her songs. Like I believed it as her like character of trying to be really sultry. I loved the haircut and the makeup. I don't know what it was, but something about it I just loved. And again, I don't know a lot of her other roles.
I think someone else could have played it better, but also looking at the thumbnail of her actress, whatever profile there is, like just seems very.
She looks so innocent there.
I was gonna say like it's like a weird like OnlyFans type thumbnail.
It looks very like 2000s.
But yeah, especially the coloring. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I know her from things that aren't like musicals at all. Not that like Renee also is known for musicals, but something about Catherine Zeta-Jones just didn't really seem.
Well, see, I remember
in the beginning she got better throughout it, but in the opening number, when she, first like turned around and started singing, I just was like, that's kind of weird. But
I mean, well, but my thought though going into this was like, oh, that's right, Catherine Zeta-Jones is in this. Like, I don't know, like she's probably going to be the one where it's like, oh, she just wanted to be in a musical. But I was buying into it so quickly, and I don't know, I just loved it. I thought she did wonderful, and I mean, I thought everybody was cast very well for the character they were, and even Richard Gere, like he's supposed to be this like suave, quick talking lawyer that's going to get you off, and he did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the fact that I first saw Catherine Zeta-Jones and like recognized her and was like, oh, this is kind of weird, but then later didn't seem weird. Maybe that does show that she did a great job with this, that it's like, despite the fact that I know her from other things and don't picture her in this role, she did a fine job. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something I've never really appreciated until this is like, how lost can the actor or actress get in their character that they just become them and you don't associate them necessarily with that role. It's just like, oh, that's just the character.
I mean, the gold standard for me is always going to be Gary Oldman because he's like a chameleon. You're like never going to like know until he's actually like just crushing the role. But she did great in the fact that I recognized her, and then throughout the rest of the movie, it didn't seem jarring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well done. Oh, so good. Oh, love this movie. I'm so excited to listen to the soundtrack all week.
Me too.
I think that sums it up for. I have a note about dances, but I don't really know exactly what I meant by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were some dances in there.
They did some dancing. I mean, I really hope that Richard Gere has an extensive tap dancing background. Like that's what I'm hoping to find from this is that he was like, I took this role so that I could tap dance.
Wouldn't be shocked based on what I know from like other actors that are like, I need this scene specifically in this movie. Mm-hmm. This wouldn't be too out of place there.
Yeah. All right. You can go on. My problem is that I try to write minimal notes in case you happen to read them, so you can't read my mind of what exactly I'm talking about. But then
I try to do that too.
Sometimes I get lost in what they are. Your turn.
My first note, and this is like in the very beginning when they're walking through the backstage in the dressing room with Velma Kelly, Catherine Zeta-Jones, is that there was just so much stuff, like people, and then she's in the dressing room. There's just stuff everywhere. Like gave me anxiety of just, there just being so much stuff, and I don't know if that was like if they're trying to like I guess give a feeling of like claustrophobia and like kind of freaking out of her like with the trying to hide the gun and that she had just killed her husband or whatever. But I just feel like so many of the movies, especially from this time period, they're just like such a feeling of like claustrophobia, but then just like stuff and just every store just having all these random like junk and things. Not that
everybody has a packed attic or basement full of crap.
Yeah, maybe it's just like a movie thing, or maybe that's just like how things were then. But also people nowadays also have just endless supplies of junk. But everything felt very crowded in that opening scene.
I appreciate that, but I also think it was kind of like a stylistic choice of you need to feel panicked because she clearly just did something with this gun and she's trying to wash the blood off her hands and she's going to get on stage. And
then she goes right into stage and it's just like dancers that are just like everywhere on that stage that she's like falling all over and doing all that. Was kind of, claustrophobic. Next note being McNulty. Just did not expect him at all. I was really hoping that he was going to have a singing role in this just to see him in that, but he got killed too early.
Especially, again, having seen the movie before and not seeing The Wire until a couple years ago, I was really hoping that he had some musical role in this that
Mm-hmm.
I just had totally forgotten about. But
Yeah,
unfortunately
no. Then Queen Latifah, I feel like this like decade was like her like real like
she
prime. She
owned
was
it.
everywhere, and like everyone just knew the name. And then I feel like I haven't heard from her in the last like 10 years.
But see, that's also, as we were watching this, I was like, I feel that way about almost this entire cast.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy Liu, when was the last time you saw Lucy Liu do something? Renee Zellweger?
But at the same time, a lot of these actors, I feel like either got enough, so much money from all these big movies and just retired, or now they just do like passion projects where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this movie, and if I only get like 500 people ever to watch it, that's fine with me. That I think it's probably like, just because we don't see them in blockbusters all the time doesn't mean they're not doing, they're not living a great life.
Oh, I mean, I don't think that they're not doing anything.
And I'd hope that
it's
she
just,
made a living off of this decade at least.
for sure.
The whole prison, everything about it, gave me some Orange is the New Black vibes the whole time.
So I did happen to accidentally see this note, but I was also thinking
I thought it was being really clever, and I was like, no, everyone knows that acronym. Yeah. They were in my notes.
I couldn't spout it off to you really quickly, but I know exactly what it is when I see it. And I try really hard not to look, and I was trying to scroll down, but I was like, I was thinking it, I just didn't write it down. I think this was definitely a precursor to
the nicknames and just like some of the drama and
and the buying the guards off and that dynamic. And I mean, maybe that's what it's really like. I wouldn't know from personal experience.
Yeah, never been to an all-female prison myself either.
But it sounds like between that show and the movie that there's some overlap there.
If TV says that's what it is, that's what it's like.
I believe it.
I did some math on the money conversions.
Thank you. That's why we keep you around.
So like the $50, $100 in the beginning of like to get a phone call and whatnot, when Mama wanted $100 to make a phone call, that's the equivalent of $1,700 today. $1,723.
How do you just
exact
get that if you're in prison?
Right? Seems like a whole lot of cash to just like have on hand to give to someone. And then the $5,000 to hire the lawyer would be $86,000 today.
Just to hire him?
Mm-hmm. So, like...
I mean, is that like... Because he said he was getting $5,000 off the deal. So that was like, I guess, his whole fee for the whole case.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of see where that tracks.
But that's just like to at least get him on retainer, it seems like. I guess the $2,000 is what got him on retainer, and then... the rest of the
because at the end when she's in the courtroom, she's like, well, you got $5,000 off of me, and he's like, and another and 10,000 if you include Velma. That like, I think it was just kind of like a flat fee. Then I would say if you're going through something extensive as this, I'd imagine you would pay $86,000 in court fees if you were trying to get off on murder. It's
just like, you think $5,000, how could they couldn't come up with that? But it's when you think about it in those terms of how much money they had on hand then, especially when they're like passing around dollar singles in the prison, that's a good chunk of change.
Yeah, yikes.
And then we mentioned the woman that was in The Grinch as well. I mentioned the low light struggles with the graininess, the fact this kind of represents a lot of America. So my last note that I have is our best boys, Dave Breeze and Doug Black. So always want to give a shout out to the best boys for really making
we haven't truly committed to watching the credits in a while, so that was
just
good.
Trying to get back to our roots.
Yes,
shouting out the best boys.
Back to the way things were. Also, let's just also talk about that. Like, they got off literally on murder and then just went on a musical tour of the.
That's America. I mean, is it not?
It is.
Like, you do the crime, you get famous for literally just doing a crime, and then you make endless money off of it if you can get off. If you had money. Yep, that's America.
It is. It's terrible. It's the worst, especially, that end scene you're watching it and you're like, yeah, this is America.
Battle tracks.
Oh, man. But this is a great movie. And I loved it. I would definitely watch it again soon.
I will sing along to it. I don't know if I would sit down and be like, let's watch this again tonight.
This will be he went to bed early, I guess I'll stay up and watch it kind of movie.
Go for it. But feel free to play this on the speakers in the house all day long.
I feel like this will be a really great soundtrack for our children to be listening to.
Some life lessons.
I didn't even think about that.
How to be a strong woman.
There it is. I love it.
That's the lesson here.
Yes. So I guess that's it for season 3, episode 4, Chicago. Thank you for watching, listening, following, rating, reviewing, all the things. And tune in next week to see what musical adventure will go on next. I don't even think we know.
And tune in for our deep dives and anything else we figure out in the next week as we research this movie that we just watched.
Yes, anything that we thought we knew and then didn't know and then have to go back and correct ourselves. So, cheers to another week, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.